Miss government's claim that Ghana is the best country in Africa to do so. And I'm sure you're wondering, who is it that's saying that Ghana is the best country in Africa to do business? We'll give you all those details. The Deputy Finance Minister has been talking as he was addressing a delegation from Italy. And also later, we'll take a look at some concerns that the NDC Deputy General Secretary has raised concerning the voter registration, which is supposed to start in earnest tomorrow. But in the studios with me, I have Dr. Abdul Ganiyu. He's a technical advisor at the Ministry of Finance. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
How was your weekend?
Yeah.
It was okay?
Good. Sure.
Campaigning indirectly or you were relaxing?
I was relaxing.
No campaigns. It hasn't started yet for you, eh? I see. Interesting. We're still waiting for the announcement of the vice presidential candidate for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia.
So that will come very soon.
When is it coming?
Very, very soon.
How soon?
Well, the party is not late. Anytime we're in power, for example, we've often announced a vice presidential candidate around August. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia himself in 2008 was announced around August
of
May? 2008.
June, July.
I'm not saying that it will be announced in August, but I'm just saying that we are not late at all.
You are not late, okay.
So it could come any time before August, or it could even come around August.
Okay.
Sure.
So give and take, between now and August is when we should expect the announcement. We're hoping it will be announced sometime this week or last week. That didn't happen, but we'll see. Alassane Suini Laji is here with us as well. He's a member of parliament for Tamale North. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm terrific, thank you.
Good to see you. How was your weekend as well?
It was productive, I would say. And let me congratulate you also for your representation of Ghana on the Global Citizen.
Thank you.
You did great.
Thank you very much.
And welcome back.
Thank you. I'm very grateful. Exhausted, but...
and I congratulate you too.
Thank you very much, Doc.
Sure.
Allow cash out. Nowadays, we don't want just congrats. Keep our lights on, allow cash out, everything in between. But anyway, also joining us via Zoom this morning is Professor John Gachi, and he is the Dean of the University of Cape Coast School of Business. He will join us shortly, and we'll get to interact with him. But again, we're streaming live on Facebook at TV3 Ghana. Now let's go straight into our first topic for today. In fact, the Deputy Minister of Finance, Dr. Stephen Amoah, has indicated that the government has a strong commitment towards working closely with the country's development partners to build a stronger economy. And he was addressing an Italian delegation that visited the country. In fact, he said that despite the challenges most African countries are facing, including Ghana, because of COVID-19, the country could easily pass as the most attractive destination to do business, adding that all sectors of the economy were performing well. And I'll quote what he says. He says, "We're doing so well as a country. Our macroeconomic indicators are good. We have one of the best educational systems in Africa. Our health sector is very efficient. So you're welcome to join us to build the resilience needed for our development." Interesting that he makes this statement, because for most people, this will be in sharp contrast with what exactly is happening on the ground, where just about a few days ago, Société Générale, a French bank that also has been operating here for the last maybe 20 years or so, indicated that it was leaving the country. And they are not the only one. In fact, Gloo also announced sometime last week that they were also leaving the country, and they were all citing economic challenges. In fact, they said unstable economic conditions in Ghana have prompted their decision to leave the country. So let's take a look at some statements that were released. One from Gloo. We'll see if we can get Société Générale as well to read for you, so you understand exactly what their concerns are. Producer, if you can just project that for me. So Gloo, by the way, is a delivery service provider. They announced their exit from the Ghanaian market effective May 10. So we're just a few days into them officially packing out of the country, and they cited profitability challenges and difficulty, in the business climate. So this is a statement, or a letter that they wrote to one of their vendors, and they said, "We'd like to inform you that Gloo has made the difficult decision to close our Ghana operations. This means that as of May 10th, 10 p.m., our customer app will no longer be available for placing orders." Continues to say, "While we recognize the potential of the Ghanaian markets, building a stronger position in the market and achieving profitability would require substantial investment over an extended period of time. This is why we have decided to redirect our resources towards the other 23 countries where Gloo operates, enabling us to do better and serve millions of customers who use the Gloo app every day. Please rest assured you will receive all outstanding payments following our terms and conditions in due time without delay. Now, Gloo also operates in Cote d'Ivoire, Morocco, Uganda, Kenya. In fact, Nigeria, we're told, is their biggest African market. It is originally a Spanish delivery company. They're also in Tunisia, and they say, well, unfortunately, they have to leave. And Societe Generale also has indicated that they would also be leaving. Now, even before that, Nivea, in December 2023, also discontinued its operations in Ghana, and they also cited high operation costs and taxation as reasons for their departure. Jumia Foods, the popular e-commerce platform Jumia, also shut down its food delivery division in December 2023, and they said it was due to unsustainable market conditions and economic factors. And this closure also reflects Jumia's financial difficulties, including a significant 41% loss, amounting to $49.8 million in the last quarter of 2022. And then also we had Honorable Kesel Atu-Forson, the minority leader in Parliament, indicates that, in fact, Beek and Lipton had also left the country. And this statement he made on the floor of Parliament right after the President gave the State of the Nation address this year. So the question then will be, on what basis is the Deputy Finance Minister saying that Ghana is the best country to do business because all the indicators show that it is a profitable place to do business? Yet we're seeing all these companies fold up and leave the country. Doc, I'll start off with you. Okay. What do you say to this?
Well, I think it's important to appreciate the fact that whilst we talk of these multinationals that may have left or are leaving, there are also multinationals that are coming in. And obviously, if you go to the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, they would give a tall list of investors that continue to knock on the doors of Ghana through the GIPC, coming with loads of investment into this country. But of course, we agree that having gone through a health pandemic, which is COVID, and then having gone through a Russian-Ukrainian war, it certainly would have come with an economic effect that had global consequences. And the World Bank, the IMF, and many analysts have described perhaps the impact of COVID on the global economy, comparing it to what the world went through, described as the Great Depression, between 1929 and 1939. So nobody was going to say that right after COVID, whatever economic impact that it created was going to go down, was going to go away just a year or two down the line. So I think that these are certainly the impacts of the COVID pandemic and the attendant global economic crisis that it has brought. But if you look at the basis upon which the Deputy Finance Minister believes that Ghana continue to be a very enabling investment destination, you have to look at the dimensions, for example, that multinationals would often consider before making an investment decision into a particular country.
Which are?
One is a macroeconomic stability. The second will possibly be peace and security. And then the third would be generally issues about regulations, issues about institutional governance, and then issues about laws, for example, and how the judicial system works. And then in recent times, there's also the issue of democracy, freedom of speech, free media, a pluralistic media, so on and so forth. What we need to ask ourselves is, along all of these indicators, if you compare Ghana to the rest of West Africa, Ghana to the rest of Africa, where is our position? Where do we stand? We certainly would occupy an enviable position.
Would we?
So as far as all of these indicators are concerned, that is what it is. You see, beyond COVID and the economic crisis that it brought, as I earlier on mentioned, if analysts have compared that to what the world went through under the Great Depression, it took about 10 or so years before the world was able to get out of that particular economic depression. And that should tell you that with the attendant effect of COVID on the economy, we cannot expect that just in a year or two, everything returns to normal. So the Ghanaian economy, Africa, and the rest of the world is still reeling under the effects of COVID. But what has this government done over the period? When we took the IMF initiative in May of 2023, all the macroeconomic indicators were not looking good. Inflation at some point was around 53, 54%, and you know that. On social media, you had a lot of people put out goods that prices were skyrocketing at the time. People really couldn't put a cap on if they bought something today and they went back to the market if price was going to be the same. End of 2023, we have successfully brought down inflation to 23.2%. And if you look at the growth of our economy, real GDP, for 2023, when we're projecting a growth of 1.5%, we revised that to 2.3%. And by the end of 2023, we grew at 2.9%. You look at the interest rates that had gone very high, somewhere around 35% if you look at the 91-day T-bill, for example. Today, what are we talking about? This morning, just check. The 91 T-bill rate is around 22-23%. So all of these are indicative of the fact that much work is being done to be able to return the economy to a state of macroeconomic stability.
So why are these companies leaving? I mean, you talk about the fact that Ghana is in an enviable position.
Sure.
But you look at the likes of Gloo. And Gloo, for example, was interviewed about Nigeria. Yes. Nigeria is supposed to be their biggest market. In fact, they're looking to expand. Nigeria was also hit by COVID. But they're able to retain some of these companies in their country. We've seen other companies who have moved production from Ghana to Cote d'Ivoire, for example. All these countries were hit by COVID.
Okay.
How is it then that for us, we still say that we're reeling from the impacts of COVID, and so it's okay if some of these multinationals are leaving, but they're leaving to these other African countries?
Bella, so this is the point. Let me use the Societe Generale situation to explain this. You realize that Societe Generale are not only indicating that they are leaving Ghana. It is an Africa-wide operation that is being undertaken, all right? They have reached an agreement with the Saham Group, for example, in Morocco, to leave Morocco, right, just about 3 weeks ago. They've also divested their interest in some other African countries, such as Equatorial Guinea, Burkina Faso, Mauritania, so on and so forth. And the latest announcement that has just come includes Tunisia. And apart from Tunisia, I think Morocco as well. So it's an Africa-wide operation. It's not just limited to Ghana. So an indication that their operations certainly have been affected by whatever the impact of COVID was on the African economy and for that matter, the global economy.
You can probably add Jumia Food.
And I'm coming to that point.
Please,
yes.
Not to cut you, but you can add Jumia because they've also shut down all the 7 African countries.
Sure.
But why then would Beak move to Ivory Coast, for example?
So I'm making the point that MNCs, multinational corporations, is that okay? What is so characteristic about them are measures, acquisitions, leverage buyouts that happen all the time. Okay, as we speak, ABSA, it's lurking around to take over the operations of XG in Ghana. ABSA is equally a multinational. If ABSA is so affected by the conditions within Ghana, for example, why would ABSA be venturing into taking over the operations of SG? Okay, ABSA is equally a multinational. That's the point I am making. And the fact of the matter is that if you look at the banking industry, for example, let's not discount the fact that indigenous African banks have grown over the period and they have become equally competitive. Look at the dominance of the Nigerian banks. Look at the dominance of the South African banks. ABSA took Barclays Africa from Africa, and over the period, you've seen the rebranding that they have done. Rebranded basically all of... But
no limits to just banks.
Yes,
that's why I've cited examples.
I'm saying that to make the point that Glovo may have their own reasons for wanting to leave Ghana. Jumia may have their own reasons for wanting to leave Ghana. But there are also other multinationals that are coming to Ghana, and even multinationals that are continuing to expand their operations.
Okay.
So it is the decision of headquarters. You know, when I talk about headquarters, a multinational sitting anywhere they are sitting and deciding that at any point in time, we probably will let our operations in a particular country go. It may not necessarily have to do with the economy of that particular country. A lot of reasons will account for that.
So Nivea, for example, they shut down in December 2023, and they said that they closed down due to high taxes and high cost of operation in the country. Bet365. In fact, they went out at that time when we had introduced, the tax on betting, where 10% will be taken off winnings and 20% from the betting companies directly. Now, they also said that the decision to exit the Ghanaian market stems from what the company describes as an untenable tax burden imposed by the Ghanaian government. That is their reason for also leaving. Dark and Lovely also left the country, also citing economic challenges. So clearly, these companies, they may be different from the banks, but they are all telling you that these are the reasons why we're leaving.
Yes,
cost of production is high, the taxes are too high, and that's why we're leaving. So
for the same reasons, you still have some other multinationals right here in Ghana and some other multinationals coming into Ghana as well. I think that's what would do this program good, is perhaps for us to look at GIPC data. For example,
do you have it here?
No, I don't have that. Okay. Maybe we can look at that later, so that over the year 2023, for example, how many MNCs came to Ghana and how many MNCs have left Ghana. So that certainly would give a better indication of where we are. Well, so as far as the MNC situation is concerned.
Because you said they were trooping in, I was hoping that you know which of these companies are trooping in, how many.
What I know is that in terms of the nets, it certainly favors Ghana. It is positive. Positive in the sense that you probably would have had more coming into Ghana than. But if you
don't have data to back it, how do we take this?
I have admitted that I don't have the data now, but I believe that is the case. And those that you have counted are just a few, that have left Ghana at the moment.
But
I agree that they create jobs, right? When if APSA does take over SG, for example, we will look at what the agreements are, and at the end of the day, how that is going to affect job losses, or how that would ensure that people who are currently working with SG continue to work with APSA. So we will look at all of those details. But at the end of the day, if we find the data from GIPC, it will give a much more better picture of what the situation is in terms of those that have left and those that have come in over the period.
I'm hoping that you can get that data for us some way, somehow before we end, because my viewers on Facebook don't seem to believe you. In fact, Salim Adam says if he doesn't have the data, then it's clear that he's lying. Shaibu Abdul Haq says that, Bella, please ask him which multinationals are coming to Ghana. Well, he's trying to see if he can get the data for us. But let me go to Alaji, because this is very disturbing. But, of course, Doc says there are more multinationals who are trooping in than those who are trooping out. And so if you look at it, then it's not too bad. What do you say to that?
Well, I will say in Dagbani that
I missed that. Yes. Can you repeat it?
It was meant for you to miss.
I had Dumso in there.
No, Mboriyo Periyo.
Mboriyo Periyo. What does it
mean? It simply means that maybe not directly translating it, but it means that what you believe to be the case or what you want to be the case is not necessarily always the case. So my brother wants to believe that if you look at the companies coming in and those going out, the net will favor Ghana. That's what he wants to believe, like he himself puts it. He doesn't have the data. And so the fact that he wants that to be the scenario or the case does not necessarily make it the case. But Bella, I want to start on a note that may be unrelated to this discussion, and that is just to urge everybody to take advantage of the limited registration exercise that is going to start tomorrow. Take advantage in the sense that we want those who are 18 years and above to take advantage of the exercise. We also want those who may have already been registered to take interest in the whole exercise, because it is important. And when you listen to some of these discussions that you are having, you appreciate the need for all of us to have an interest in the electoral process, because the solutions to the problems that we are discussing today, as far as the economy is concerned, education is concerned, environment is concerned, are all in that electoral process. And that electoral process can lead to us finding solutions to these problems when we make sure that they are transparent, they are fair, and then they bring outcomes that, you know, are desirous. And that is why I want to take advantage of this to urge everybody out there to show an interest. The limited registration exercise is starting tomorrow. It's going to take place at the various EC district offices, despite, you know, opposition to that decision by the minority, especially given the ordeal that people went through the last time. One would have thought that the Electoral Commission would be more reasonable. Yes, they have included.
Let's move on. I mean,
they have included a number of issues, but I just want to make that appeal. Now, Bella, I want to simplify this discussion so that perhaps we'll understand that the problem we are faced with, as far as the reckless and corrupt management of this economy is concerned, is not told in the stories of these big companies. It is reflected more in the corner shops that are locking up in our areas, in the businesses in Makola that are folding up, in the tamale markets, the traders that are unable to travel again. But they are not able to catch the headlines. The people who are losing their jobs at the ports, they are not able to get the headlines. And so it is the Glovos, the Unilevers, the Societe Generale, and others who are getting the headlines. But that, for me, is not even where the story is. Bella, if you were doing business in Ghana in 2016 with 1 million Ghana cedis, 1 million Ghana cedis in 2016, do you know how much value that was? That was $250,000 US. 1 million Ghana cedis. Now, even for nothing at all, today, if you are still holding on to that 1 million Ghana cedis, you have only $76,000. That's how much capital you have lost. Capital that has been lost is more than $150,000 just because of exchange rate. That's how serious this problem is. If you are just trading with 1 million Ghana cedis, the value you have lost is more than $150,000. How are you going to sustain that business? And that is minus the impact of inflation, which is, by the way, at an unprecedented high. Minus that. And that is also minus the impact of energy crisis. Bella. And that is minus the impact of the numerous taxes that have also been imposed. Just exchange rate. And that is how come businesses are relocating to other countries. That is those who have the means. And they are relocating to countries that, by the way, were also affected by COVID. And are also in the same geopolitical space where Ukraine and Russia are at war. And so we need to appreciate that the problems are as a result of reckless decisions that we have taken with regard to the management of our economy, some of which have led to an unsustainable debt. That is the bane of the problem. It is the debt that has led to lack of confidence in our economy. Because of our inability to service our debt, which again, by the way, is also unprecedented in the Fourth Republic. No government has ever been that bad. No government has ever sunk that low to be unable to pay our debts. But we have mismanaged the economy to a point where our neighbors are paying their debts and we are unable to, even though they were also hit by COVID. And that has led to that poor confidence in our economy because it has become unpredictable. We have become an economy, even our city is junk status.
But the deputy finance minister won't agree with you on this because he says we're doing well. He says that
he doesn't have to. Bella, he doesn't have to. The person who had 1 million Ghana cedis, which value was $250,000 and today is $76,000, agrees with me because he who feels it knows it. The deputy minister of finance is living on our sweat. He doesn't experience what the common worker out there or business owner out there is going through. So he can afford to trivialize the issues and talk about things that we have always known are our selling points, which, by the way, are also getting destroyed. He spoke about education.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we have the best education.
I mean,
in
since
the whole of Africa.
Since Nkrumah's time, we've always had the best of education.
Do we still have that?
That's why I'm saying they are destroying that too, unfortunately. In fact, I have on many platforms said that we are faced with triple E's. In fact, recently someone told me to add a fourth one.
What are the E's?
The economy, mismanaged to a point of shame, the environment, and so I pity the next government.
What are the other E's? So economy,
the environment, education, and the energy.
Energy, okay.
That's how, I mean, every sector you look at. So education that used to be our selling point. Today, anybody who has, a cursory look at the educational sector will tell you that the next government is going to suffer to clean it up. If it's not about prioritizing past questions over textbooks, it's about wording dubious contracts, now even contemplating painting schools when teachers don't even know the curriculum really they are using. I mean, and yet he thinks that it will remain or continue to be our selling point as a country. I'm saying to him that even the education that is still holding us together. Today, ask university lecturers. You have people who have A's at WASI who cannot write a simple, what do you call it? A simple paragraph that will be meaningful. But they have A's at WASI. Ask university lecturers. And they will come out to become the future leaders. So even that education is being destroyed. And the earlier they listened, well, it's too late for them to even make an intervention. I think that we Ghanaians just need to get our loins and get ready to rescue this nation. Because the earlier we did that, the better for us in at least salvaging some of these, selling points of Ghana that are still salvageable.
But what should this government do at the moment to salvage this problem? It's too late for them to do anything?
I think it's too late, and it's especially so because they continue to bury their heads in the sand. And that is why you will have the Minister of Finance, the Deputy Minister of Finance, tell you the stories that he's telling you. I mean, we are told that identifying the problem, acknowledging that the problem exists, is about 50% the solution to the problem. Not so. But here we are, even on this set, unfortunately, my brother is unable to admit to the reality of the challenge and suggest to you that, oh, never mind, some are also coming in. Really? I mean, the gravity of the situation is such that, like I have said, the story of our economy being bankrupt is not only told in the data that is posted as far as our debt is concerned, as far as inflation is concerned, or even in the data about multinationals leaving our country. It is told in those corner stores. It is told in schools where parents are struggling to pay their fees as schools have reopened. It is told in the markets. It's told in the erosion of people's capital even before they start work. That has to be admitted to, that has to be appreciated, and that should not be explained away by COVID.
Okay.
As we often hear, or Russia and Ukraine, because our neighbors also got hit with those things. And the question they have never been able to answer is, how come they are doing better?
Doc, let me bring you back in, because now I have the GIPC investment reports for 2023. I don't know if you found it now.
Great.
Do you have it?
Yes.
Now, there are a couple of companies that it says, or notable projects that were registered, October to December 2023.
Yes.
So we have Asan Ghana Limited, we're told it's a Turkish shareholding company. Simfo Ghana is a manufacturing company. SEC Minerals is a wholly foreign gold mining company. Bright Cement, Faxin Industries Limited. So far, these are the ones that have been listed.
Exactly.
And you are saying that because these ones are coming in, we should not necessarily say that things look bad. These are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
No, I don't know from which month to
they are
which
registered.
month.
October to December.
Well,
I have it here.
Again, we can look at that. But what I have
I'm just showing it to you so you know what I'm reading from. This is an official document from GIPC.
That's okay. That's okay. But it does make the point that at the end of the day, we've had investors coming in. And it's not just the number of MNCs. You should also look at even the amount, the volumes of investments that have come in terms of money and everything else. Is that okay? You could have just 2 or 3, but at the end of the day, how many in dollars, whether it's in millions or whether it's in billions. So that is what we are talking about. So it does prove the point that MNCs always have a decision to make at any point in time, depending on what their corporate or strategic objectives are.
What about the regular
wherever
Ghanaian
they
who's
are
also
seated?
losing his or her job?
Well, if you look at, again, that particular market, we've created a lot more jobs over the period, than the jobs that have been lost. And at the end of the day, I keep making the point about the banking.
Small jobs.
I keep making the point about the banking industry that you don't seem to appreciate. SG, for example, is leaving Africa. It's not just Ghana. And one of the issues they have raised, for example, is that it is their corporate objective to become the market leader wherever they operate. But over the period, let us also admit the fact that indigenous African banks have grown. They've become more dominant. They've become more competitive. And that is what it is. Or else, if you look at what really promotes foreign direct investment across all the dimensions, Ghana occupies a very enviable position. And that is what it is. You take a look at the World Investment Summit, for example, report, and it does show that Ghana is about the second highest recipient of foreign direct investment in Africa. Is that okay? You go to Deloitte, for example, in their investment attractiveness destinations in Africa, Ghana is also the second best investment destination you can find on the continent of Africa.
Are we sustaining them?
And let me make this point. The fact that we have even African Continental Free Trade Area right here in Accra, Ghana, does show that Ghana presents one of the best showpieces so as far as investment into Africa is concerned. So all of these show that this cannot be the reasons why these MNCs would want to leave Ghana.
But the MNCs have stated why they're leaving, and you're saying that these cannot be the reasons?
I'm saying that some of the MNCs, yes, have been affected by the after effects of COVID on the economy, of which Ghana is not an island. Ghana is not isolated. It is the global economy that was affected by that. And I have compared that to even what the world went through under the Great Depression.
The world has taken over.
No, the world hasn't. The effect of COVID on the global economy is still with us.
Okay.
And it's not going to go away very soon. So we have to understand that. But I've made a point consistently that whatever has happened to this country over the period of COVID, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and his vice president certainly have demonstrated the best of leadership. And a problem was not created. They ran away from it, only waiting for a next government, for example, to be saddled with it. Today, as we speak, there is the appreciation that the economy indeed has turned the corner.
I'll let you hold on to that. Let's really find out if it's true. I have a guest on the line. I'll come back to you, Alhaji. Sorry, right, but I've held Professor Gachi on the line for far too long. I think it's time for us to go to him. So Professor John Gachi joins us via phone. He's a Dean, University of Cape Coast School of Business. Thank you so much, Prof, for joining us. Now, you put out a statement quite recently where you said that the recent exit or planned exit from Ghana by multinational companies must be a worry for all Ghanaians. Why do you say that?
Well, I think it is very clear in my statement. We do know that our interest as a country is for these multinationals. When they come, they contribute to our growth. They contribute to our revenue mobilization, and they contribute to employment of our people. And it should be very clear to anybody that when they are leaving, that it also means that we are losing jobs, we are losing revenue. We are going to truncate on the contribution to the growth of the economy. And that is why it should be of concern to us. Even though we do have our local businesses which sacrifice a lot in the face of the difficulties that is taking away these multinationals away. They remain here. They suffer the brunt of exchange rate depreciation. They suffer the brunt of high cost of borrowing. Volatile price changes and other difficulties, the tax environment. They continue to live here. And that's what I think, that our attention should now be directed towards how we can groom the local businesses to stand the test of time. So this is how it is. So you are having a phenomenon that has a reflection on jobs, that has a reflection on the contribution to revenue, that has a reflection to contribution to growth. And those things are happening. It does seem that nobody knows what is going on. I believe the government should be able to tell us what is actually going on. So that is the reason why the statement was made.
Well, the government seems to have a position on this. And we heard from the Deputy Finance Minister. He says that so far we're doing so well as a country and our macroeconomic indicators are good. Are they playing ostrich, or is that really the situation?
Well, the Deputy Minister is only talking with reference to the point that inflation was at the point 53%, and today it's at 22%. that is all about it. So that has nothing to do with what we are discussing. We are talking about job losses. We are talking about potential effect on growth. We are talking about potential effect on revenue mobilization. That is not what the Deputy Minister is talking about. We are talking about the number of motor riders who are going to lose their jobs. Even if another multinational comes into the country and the other multinational is in the, let's say, financial sector, do you think that they are going to employ the number of motor riders that we're talking about? The answer is no. Therefore, it has a problem that we need to confront. So we shouldn't treat it as though it is nothing. It is a serious development. Of course, it's also signaling that the environment is very hostile to them. Look, multinationals, no matter the strategy they have, at the end of the day, they want to ensure that their profit is intact. If the profit is not intact, and they look ahead and see that it will not be better the coming year, they will leave. The underlying factor is their profit. They're not here to do charity to anybody. So if they are being hit by high prices and for which people are not able to buy, if they are hit with a high cost of borrowing for which people borrow, they cannot pay, and then their level of non-performing loans are increasing by the day, they will leave. So the underlying factor is the economic, outage that we have churned out. That we have churned out a volatile business environment. That's what they are responding to. And we need to fix that.
But government has consistently blamed COVID-19 for where we are, which is why they indicated that things are difficult at the moment, and yes, they are fixing it. So are we being unfair if we, throw that to the dogs and don't assume that, yes, COVID really had that negative impact on our economy?
So I think we know the story around COVID already. It is only hyped to this level. It is not COVID that is causing our problem. COVID has a contribution to the problem that we have as a country, but it is not COVID that is making the companies to leave the country. It is the economic outcome that we have. It's the economic outcome that we have. So if we keep on referring to COVID, it's as though we are not capable of putting the structures in place to resolve the problem. Other countries have resolved their problem and they are moving on. So if we keep making reference to COVID all the time, Ukraine-Russia war and the rest, then it's as though we are not capable of facing the challenge that we face. In fact, every government faces challenge, no matter voluminous or not voluminous, or whether it is international or it is domestic. They are all challenges, and governments are called upon to resolve their problems. So if we are not able to resolve those problems, then it's a bit of a problem.
Prof, what are we supposed to do as a nation to ensure that some of these MNCs stay in business in Ghana and are profitable so we can also sustain job creation within the country?
The answer is simple. They are living because of the hostile environment. If we fix the environment, they will be able to stay. If we fix the environment, our local businesses will be stronger. That is the answer. And the environment can be divided in macroeconomic environment, and we can also divide it into non-macroeconomic environment. We can even talk about the real environmental environment, let me put it that way. If these are not fixed, companies will come from other countries to locate into our country. They will find a way to fix the country and to create that hole that we are all concerned about. So we should fix the environment. Then number two, we should pay greater attention to nurturing local businesses because they are not living. Those who cannot stand, they are collapsing. But others are doing everything possible to stand and to contribute to revenue generation, to contribute to the growth we're talking about, and to contribute to at least a minimal level of jobs for the country. So that is why we should pay attention to local businesses.
All right. Well, Prof, thank you so much for speaking to us this morning. Professor John Gachi is the Dean, University of Cape Coast School of Business. Elijah, I'll come to you shortly. Please give me a minute. But I just wanted him to respond to that because you've heard from Prof.
Yes.
He says that we should still not be blaming COVID for what is happening.
You see, we certainly cannot continue to blame COVID, but we also must appreciate where we are and the reasons or the causes probably that have brought us to where we are. And at no point has government gone to sleep and said that because of COVID, things should continue to go bad. Indeed, we have turned the corner if you look at all the macroeconomic indicators, where they were before COVID struck, and indeed where they were during COVID, and immediately after COVID, which pushed us to signing up for the IMF program. And that's exactly what the Deputy Minister was alluding to. But I'm surprised that Prof feels that inflation should have nothing to do with jobs. It's surprising to
Why
me,
is it
to be
surprising
honest.
to you?
Because at the end of the day, if the cost of production goes high and businesses certainly cannot survive, that certainly will lead to job losses. But if inflation is coming down, cost of production is low, that means that businesses can expand and they are able to create more jobs. So inflation is a critical indicator. So as far as job creation is concerned.
But you say that you created more jobs.
If inflation was more than 50% at some point, it meant that a lot of businesses could easily have collapsed. And government has considerably brought inflation down to 23.2% as we speak. And we have projected 2024 inflation to be between 15 and 17%. And by 2026, we should be able to bring inflation further down, perhaps to a single digit.
All right.
So inflation, it's a measured indicator, and nobody can discount that. Now, if you talk about the interest rates, for example, I indicated that they're also coming down, and anybody can check the 91-day T-bill today, where they are. When interest rates were over 30%, that again meant that it simply would have crowded out the private sector because access to capital became very difficult, and where they accessed it, it came at a higher cost. Today, interest rates are equally coming down. So that should spur growth in the economy and create a lot more jobs. Now, my big brother was talking about our debt situation.
And I'll let you end on that for me.
As if on a particular day, all of Ghana's debts were just accumulated under this particular government. The government met a particular debt situation, and of course, debts have been added to it from 2017 up to where we are.
Way higher than what you
it's not way higher.
Way higher than
it's not
what
way
you
higher. If you actually do a comparative analysis, in 2008, our debt situation was just 9.8 billion Ghana cedis, which was around 34% of GDP. Is that okay? So in terms of the debt to GDP ratio, now, by the time they were leaving office, the debts went to 122.6 billion Ghana cedis. This is a 12-fold increase, if you look at it. And of course, end of 2023, our debts were around 610 billion. And if you compare that to the 122, that's 5-fold increase. So they have actually increased the debt's more over a period of 8 years.
So now we're calculating who's increased it more.
But that's what it is. But that's the impression.
What happened to
But that is the impression he tries to create.
Yes, but
is that okay?
But you see, it's also about the promises that you made as a party to
what were the promises?
that we were going to have a Ghana beyond aid.
We're going to have a Ghana beyond aid. We were on that trajectory.
Until
if you look at inflation, you look at the interest rates, you look at the growth in GDP, which was a consistent 6% over the period before COVID struck. And that is what it is. And I am not the one saying it. The IMF, the World Bank, and any analyst around the world compared what the impact of COVID was on the global economy to that of the Great Depression. Perhaps anybody should go and read about the Great Depression, and you will understand the critical times that the global economy found itself after COVID, of which Ghana is not an isolation.
So if you took us from 100 to 600,
but we have successfully. Let me just conclude on that. We have successfully brought ourselves out of the COVID situation, and now everybody can see the trajectory we are headed.
Well,
and
we are at IMF at the moment, and so that's not any good picture that we can even paint for a country. But let me bring Alaji in.
I'm still very, very confused and frustrated with the, commentary that I'm getting from my brother. And I've been getting similar commentaries from the communicators of the New Patriotic Party. And Bella, it gets so frustrating. I mean, I'll just give you 2 issues on this, and then I'll move on. He does a comparison of the debt before the NDC and after the NDC and now. And then he concludes that it is better under this regime. Bella, never before has our debt been unsustainable until now.
So what we added
was
what
Doc,
created
Doc, hold
the
on.
unsustainability.
Absolutely.
And what you left behind.
Please allow him.
Absolutely.
Please allow
You
him.
left behind
Absolutely.
120
Allow him. When you were speaking,
Never
he did not
before.
interject.
So
Our
at the end of
debt
the day, what would
situation, we have never gotten to a point, no government. That's how bad this government is. No government has ever taken our debts to a point where it throws up its hands in the
that's
air
because our
and
debt-
says,
our
I
debts
can't
were
pay.
zero.
Doc, please.
No, but you see, these are facts.
No.
You know,
Let's just-
Our debts were zero.
The
Allow
point
him.
In 2017.
The point is that our debts were sustainable. Our city was much stronger. Our economy was much buoyant when you took over. That is the fact. And you took over, you enjoyed the windfall until 2018, 2019. And you see, I've always used this scenario, Bella. I say it's like a child who inherited a lot of wealth and went into town partying without appreciating the sacrifice the parents made to build the wealth. And so 2-3 years down the line, they realized that, hey, life is not just about all parties. By the time they were about to pull the brakes, and check the data, after they posted an impressive economic growth in 2017, 2018. By the way, growth that was predicted by the economic watchers in 2015, 2016. Because of the work that government was doing, the growth was predicted that 2017 Ghana will grow by this. So the inheritance was showing off. But check the data. By 2019, we started slipping, even before COVID hit. 2019, we started slipping, even before COVID hit. You understand? So once COVID hit, it then brought home the recklessness and mismanagement that was covered by the inheritance that they got. So clearly, I'm saying that comparison of the two debts situation, there's only one answer to it, that our debt has become unsustainable, and we are not even, as we speak now, servicing our debts. Bella, that's even another way of appreciating how bad this problem is. We have suspended some debt servicing, and yet our exchange rate is not, contained. Can you imagine how the city would have fared against the dollar if we're paying our external creditors, for example? We don't have an agreement with them, and because of that, we have suspended payments. Can you imagine how bad the situation would have been? Then he talks about jobs. That's the second issue I want to talk about. He talks about jobs and says that they have created more. You know that when you took over, the unemployment rate was in single digits, between 5 to 6. Today, we are talking about 12 to 14% unemployment rate. And that is from the Statistical Service. That is from a government agency. It's not my data. And so you don't kid yourself when we are talking about livelihoods that are at stake and family unity and cohesion that are also at stake. Look, when he was talking about banks, he was very careful in his choice of words. When he said indigenous African banks, I wish he had said indigenous Ghanaian banks. Why can't we say that? Because vindictively, we collapsed them. And it also led to its own job losses. And many of them are still out there. Some of them are driving taxis. In fact, some of them are cooking Indomie on the streets. Bankers who lost their jobs as a result of that reckless and vindictive decision to collapse our banks. I mean, how do you, for example, collapse a bank because someone is undergoing prosecution? How do you justify that? Undergoing prosecution. And based on the reason why the person is undergoing prosecution, you collapse his bank without thinking about the people who had jobs in those banks, who were keeping their families together as a result of, those jobs.
I'll let you hold on. Just hold on for me. I have Professor Gachi on the line. He wants to just react quickly to a statement that Doc made, and I'll come back to you. Prof, thank you again for joining us. You said you have a reaction, I believe, to that issue about inflation and how it's related to job creation?
Yes, I think the statement was made as though I'm not familiar with what inflation meant for job creation, productivity, etc. That is not the case. If you have the inflation drop from 53% to 22%, we do agree that it will have some pass-through effect before it starts reflecting on other indicators. But we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that inflation, exchange rate, and cost of borrowing must have some alignment. As we stop today, the exchange rate that we have, which contributes hugely to inflation, is still very volatile. And for that matter, you do not expect inflation to perform the role that it ought to perform. That is one. Number two, when you are talking about TD rates going down from 35% to about 22%, this is not the first time we have seen that development. And that means that we also expect that it will go back again. But business people don't borrow at Treasury bill rate. Households don't borrow at Treasury bill rate. It is only government that borrows at Treasury bill rate. So that should be understood very clearly. So if for government who has control over the Treasury bill market, everybody now is buying Treasury bill because they don't have alternative to invest in, and the rate goes down sharply by the one who's controlling the market, that does not mean much to the economy. We are talking about the rate at which businesses are borrowing and the difficulties at which they are borrowing. And the difficulties that comes with the repayment of cash, of which the non-performing loan of the financial sector, the banking sector, is way above what is expected. A great problem for the banking sector. That is what we are talking about.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, sir. And just a few comments coming in. So Mashahudu Suleimana says, money is spent as nominal value, not percentage. If you go to buy bread, do you tell them you are buying a loaf of bread for 40%? Aram Ajo says, if 9 billion is giving us 12 folds of debt increase, how many debt folds would we get out of 600 billion using the same 9 billion measure? This is Voodoo Economics.
From 1 to 2
okay.
to
No, I'm just reading a few
610.
comments from some viewers.
You should understand that.
Nitetena Mwale says 2019 was when the government set up a committee to look at the depreciation of the cedi before COVID struck. This one, Robert says, so Doc wants us to believe that about 120 billion NDC debt is more than over 470 billion NPP debt. What happened to mathematics? Well, let me come back to Alaji, and we'll come and explain this further. Alaji,
so I was just making the point that when they speak to us, they need to appreciate that we are not stupid, and even if we are, we know what we feel, and we know how uncomfortable that is. And clearly, there is evidence that we didn't have to even be where we are today. Bella, apart from even the quantums of debts, it's important that we evaluate how much has come to this government also. Because you see, your level of liquidity in everyday terms determines whether you even borrow or how much you borrow. I'm speaking in normal terms. I mean, if you have money, how much you have is what will determine whether you borrow or how much you borrow. Because if I have money with me, I may not borrow at all. If I'm getting a regular income that meets I may not borrow at all. Or I may borrow, but I may not borrow how much I would have borrowed if I didn't have money. So it's important that even in assessing how badly this debt has been accumulated, we also look at how much has come to this government by way of revenue. Tax revenue, not even borrowed revenue, tax revenue, unprecedented, and he knows. No government has ever had the amount of tax revenue that this government has had. And what have they done with it? That's a good question.
We've introduced free SHS.
How much has gone into free SHS?
Most of your constituents now have access
How
to
much?
education
Can
through
you,
free
can you,
SHS.
how much has gone into free SHS? Assuming that that free SHS is even qualitative, we all know the problems with it, but assuming it's even qualitative, how much of the tax revenue has gone into it? How much?
So much.
Today, we are told that only about 7 billion Ghana cedis has gone into it. But
And that's
Bella,
only.
Bella, do you know how much they have raised? 298 billion
From taxes.
from tax revenue. More than that, 298 billion. And he says that they have done free SHS. So what has happened to the over 290 billion?
Well, I believe you let him answer at this point.
What has
Can
happened to
explain.
it? Assuming that it's even qualitative, but we all know that even data has shown that despite the 7 billion or so that has gone into free SHS, parents are paying about 70% of the cost of education. That's EduWatch. We discussed it on this platform. Data shows that 70% of the cost of educating children at the SHS level is still being borne by parents. And so that is the excuse. 298 billion free SHS is the solution, is the answer to how you have utilized that. So you have failed to utilize all of these tax revenue and has still gone ahead to borrow unprecedentedly, to accumulate a debt that has made our economy, a laughing stock, that has made it unpredictable. And so nobody wants to touch us with a long pole. Look, when you have a government increase treasury bills, for example, the expectation is that it's going to even attract foreign investment because they are short of higher returns for their investments. Not so.
Yeah.
So why is it the case that today, even as treasury bill rates are high, these foreign investors are leaving?
Okay. Allow Doc to come in.
Why is it
So
that
he can
case?
respond to all the
Now,
issues that you have raised.
the flip side of high T-bills is also the fact that it leads to slow economic growth. And it also, you would have thought that they would be taking measures that will bring about some quick recovery in our economy. But I'm telling you that all of these measures are rather slowing down the recovery. And yet they tell you that, we have taken the corner. Bella, what is also again lost in that conversation, and I'll end on that note, is the nuance that is missed. If inflation was at 54%, and something was being sold at 100 Ghana cedis, what it meant was that 50% inflation moved it to 150 Ghana cedis. About that. It moved the price to 150. If today inflation comes down to 23%, that thing that I used to buy at 100 Ghana, which was moved to 150 because inflation went to 150, will now be sold to me at 180.
Okay. Let Dr.
It does not mean that I will get back my 100, I'll get it lesser than 150. It rather means that I'm even going to get it higher. And that is why the suffering is dire, and companies are folding up, and many are relocating.
Right.
It also means that if the prices of goods were going to increase at the same rate of 54%, that is no more going to happen. They are now going to be increasing.
I'm just telling you that you have provided no relief. I'm just saying that even though inflation may come down, it provides no relief.
The fact is that people's income do increase over time. As you work with Media General, every now and then, depending on the economic indicators, there are wage increases, so on and so forth. So where you begin to have inflation coming down, it means that you are now spending a bit more less than what it was if inflation was, let's say, 54%. That's a simple analogy that we have to appreciate. Now, when you talked about GDP growth, and I've heard my colleagues from the other side make this argument every now and then, 2017 growth rate of 8.1%, they want to take credit for it. And this is end of 2017.
Read the
which party, which government was in power in 2017?
Read the EIU report.
The fact is that
but was it not because of
please,
the support from IMF, which then helped the economy to grow?
As a support from
investment
IMF.
in ENI.
Listen,
you know it.
When you sign up for an IMF program, every now and then there's a review. So a government takes over in January 2017, there were reviews all the way to the end of that particular year. Then a GDP growth of 8.1% is recorded. And you tell me that that government in power shouldn't take the credit. You, that left office in January of 2017, it should be credited to you. How is that possible? So all the reviews that were done by IMF, it was some other people who presided over the economy for that particular year. And now, this is the point. In 2018, we grew by 6.2%. In 2019, we grew by 6.5%. 2020, and this is where the curiosity lies, we grew by 0.5%. What do you think may have caused that? Was it not COVID?
Yes.
Exactly. When there were lockdowns, people were basically no more going to work, shops were closed, and everything else. What did we expect? It was certainly going to have a negative impact on the economy. And this was what happened in 2020. Then in 2021, we grew by 5.1%. In 2022, growth came to 3.1%. Okay. Then we started to experience all the challenges that it came with, because right after COVID, it probably took a while before the whole global economy started to feel the heat. And as I keep saying, Ghana is not an island. So we were certainly confronted with the same crisis that confronted the whole wide world.
Okay.
And that's the situation. But when we say we have turned the corner, it is because we have successfully grew the economy in 2023 by 2.9%. Okay? Haven't targeted a growth of 1.5%, which we even revised to 2.3%. But we exceeded that level of growth. And we brought down inflation to 23%.
I quickly wanted to respond. My time is up. On
quickly.
3 SHS and how much was spent. Because you made that statement that, yes, we borrowed a lot.
So it talks about some 7 billion.
Yeah.
That is being spent on free SHS. And this is year on year. A lot of our kids who are being enrolled, for example, into free SHS, many of them probably wouldn't have had secondary education but for free SHS. And that's a huge investment. When it became a critical matter in this country, and I'm sure you would have agreed with some of those who were calling for those who can pay should be allowed to pay, so on and so forth. But government said, no, it is free for everyone. And as we speak, it remains free. That is a huge investment. Remember what the NDC did in opposition at the time. That free SHS was impossible.
Because Alaji makes,
So on the average,
out of the over 200 billion that we were able to raise.
So if on the average, you spent about 7 billion, Ghana cedis on free SHS year on year. Multiply that for a period of 7 years. How much money are we talking about?
Year on year.
So hold on. Is it year on year or it is the total?
Not year on year.
You are the technical advisor from the Finance Ministry. You can tell us. Is it year on year or that's the total amount that has been spent so far?
We have spent far more than the figure that he's quoting.
How much?
In fact, I think that my figure is even very generous.
Alaji, please hold on.
Check the record.
How much?
So that's what I'm saying. It's year on year. We can look at that.
Okay.
Not true.
But you don't have the exact figure.
True.
You say?
You don't have the figure.
You see, the thing is that you need to look at, apart from those enrolling new, and then those who are currently in school. So all that expenditure is what you have to bring together.
So in total,
and I'm telling you that year on year, this is the amount we have spent.
Not true.
So 7 billion year on year.
Yes.
That's not true.
So if we have, please.
Okay,
please.
my time is up.
Don't worry, we will check.
We have to check this quickly, though, but my time is up. We have to go, unfortunately. Time is up. Thank you so much. And let me just try and read a few messages. So, let me skip this one. Surini is lying. It's not true that 70% of the cost of free SHS is being borne by parents. In actual fact, I have the report here, and it says 77% costs. Parents are bearing 77% costs despite free SHS policy. So I needed to get that out of the way for those of you who think that that was wrong. Now, he's not responding to the question. He claims the government was overspending on free SHS. That's Salim Adams. Fatal says, if they had to conduct... Okay, never mind. I'll skip that. The credits must be given to the preceding government due to the foundation set by them and the clear predictions that came to pass. That's Reverend Brown.
Listen,
Ghana economy to grow by 7%.
I've seen your message. It says, when Honorable Surini mentioned that we always have had good education since Nkrumah's era, you asked if we still have that. I think that amounts to leading on. I'm not sure I was leading him on. I just wanted to find out if that was a situation on the ground. Good morning, Mr. Tommy Annan Forson. You're watching us this morning. We're grateful. Tasha Malouf, I miss you. I love you. I'll see you shortly. But thank you all so much for watching this morning. Unfortunately, that's all time we're allowed. Just a reminder that from tomorrow, if you are 18 years and over, the Electoral Commission is opening up its registration to allow you to register to be able to vote come December 2024. So make sure you take advantage of that. Dr. Abdul Ganiyu, Technical Advisor, Minister for Finance. Alhaji Alasan Suini is the Member of Parliament for Tamale North. And we also had Professor John Gachi, Dean, University of Cape Coast School of Business, joining us via phone. We have more coming up, and we'll be going into the PM Extra House. Yesterday, some 4. In fact, on Saturday, some 4 contestants were evicted. We'll get into that as well. Keep watching. This is TV3 New Day.